In another video there was the mechanic of how to assemble these, what to do, and when to get these cards online. In this video we're gonna learn and interpret the text that we're seeing. So this is the Shattered Star Fate specifically, and we'll need to see what we need here to make sense. So what I usually do in these cases is I also save it for future reference. So I usually have some window that is quite easy to parse. So for example, here is this Gemini window, and I just place the text in there for future reference. So I would recommend this anyway. You have Fate Resonance as well. I will add the points too, and area off, so that's where we stopped, this line, and there you go. Resurrect. So there is resurrection involved, by the way, just saying. So every 30 seconds. And this is just the Empress card set, by the way. There is also the Emperor. And we will understand and interpret it. So in this case, you know, I copy pasted the images. So this is Tarot 3.0. Format or retrieve the text from the images in order. Summarize the text based on what makes sense and suggest which stats are worth optimizing and why. I won't believe Gemini, by the way, I generally don't. So this is just some extra information. And they will most likely understand that it's Zero of Chaos. That's fine. Now, let's see. Empress level 0 requires total star level for next time. And let's see. Level 0. Upon entering battle, grants units the Empress's blessing for 20 seconds. During this time, a unit with the Empress's blessing gains parry every 10 seconds. We talked about this before. When a unit, in the other video, when a unit with parry takes damage, there is 50% chance to reduce final damage taken by 30%. Okay. Then we continue with Fate Resonance. Star Slayer level 0. Unlock the 12 stars for the Fool, the Empress, and the Emperor, all three. How do you get 12 stars? You have 1 star and 1 star here. You have, this is like 1 star, 1 star. And if you check it out, it's not Emperor but the Empress. If you check it out, this is, by the way, common. This is the Emperor text, and Fate Resonance Star Slayer level 0. Fate Resonance is the same thing. So unlocked when the total star level of the Fool, Empress, and the Emperor has reached 12 stars respectively. Total star level. Why is it there the word total? It's because every single time you see that +0 1 star. But it may happen that it's +1 0 star. What happens in +1 0 star? In that case, you already had 5 stars in +0. Okay? And respectively means that it needs to be 12, 12, 12 for every single artifact, including the Fool. Don't sweat it at the moment, because there is no way to get Fool, the Fool card at the moment. So there is no leveling. Right now I have 0 Fool cards. So you need 12, 12, 12. That takes a while. Increases final HP amplification by 100% and final attack amplification by 50%. So that's one thing. Let's go back to here. So it's this part. When the HP of any enemy unit, Divine Herald aptitude or below, falls under 10%, immediately execute them. That's funny. First of all, because we don't know if Divine Descendants are Divine Heralds or not. And second, it's funny because you know that an immediate execution means that the heal mechanic and the revive on death mechanic may be inflicted. And this is what I told you about a couple of months ago. That if you immediately execute them, we'll need to figure out one thing. Because there is also the battle scar. And there is this Doomsday. Not the Doomsday way, the battle scar development, the themed battle scar. And here you also have some sort of a resonance. So effect preview. And there is some revival in here. So tier 8, tier 10, tier whatever. Unfortunately, it's not very accessible to understand. But there is this true damage and all the other things as well, that's fine. But there is also a revival effect. And if you execute, is it working against the revival? That's something that is yet to be confirmed. Write it in the comments if you know it, because it's difficult to know. Now, I may investigate this at a later stage, but let's go back to the Empress. And you see this Fate Resonance. So 12 stars, it will take a while. Note 50% chance if they have an exclusive weapon and are Divine Herald aptitude or above. So you have 100%, it's a guaranteed execution if it's Divine Herald or below, without weapons. So Divine Herald without weapons or below Divine Herald. But if the Divine Herald has a weapon or it's above, there is a 50% chance to execute. Cooldown. Once every 30 seconds, max 4 times per battle. So it's not the full team, but only units. Cooldown reduced by 1 second for every 8 legendary tarot cards inlaid. So that's where we are at the moment. And then the second part, 16 stars. This is the 16 stars. Increases final HP amplification by 100% and final attack amplification by 50%. I guess it's like extra percentage for these stats. It's easy. But they are not the best stats to have. Upon entering battle, if there are dead units, immediately resurrect all of them once every 30 seconds. So you resurrect the dead units, fine. If only one unit remains, instantly trigger this effect again. So this means you almost died, but you keep one unit. And that's what I cannot test at the moment. I have the video here, but I don't have the 12 stars. I could pull, but it's not worth for me to pull. So I'm just staying here. I know that revival could happen instantly when you only have one unit. And just imagine, if you revive all your units, how much stronger do you become? Cooldown is reduced. Fine. By 1 second for every 8 legendary tarot card inlaid, each mode triggers up to 2 times per battle. Then comes the third part, where you have 20 stars. So here it is, 20 stars for the Fool, Empress and the Emperor. Increases final HP amplification by 100%, final attack, fine. Execution threshold increased to 20%, so health goes down to 20% and then execute. With a 100% chance or 50% chance. Then rank 4 enhancement, decreasing trigger in interval by an additional 5 seconds. So not every 30 seconds, but every 25 seconds. Crazy, isn't it? And then you have card set attributes, that is mine. And summary of the mechanics, this is what you need to take with a grain of salt. This set is part of the Holy Trinity synergy with the Fool and the Emperor. Its primary identity is high impact utility. It provides a safety net through resurrections and the finisher mechanic through execution. early game focuses on survival via a parry mechanic to mitigate burst damage. Fine. Burst, it's when you have like fast damage, you dampen it. Mid to late game focuses on turning the tide by reviving fallen allies or instantly killing low health enemies to bypass heavy healing phases. And then optimization. Let's see what it says. Total star level. You must hit the star levels, fine. Legendary tarot card quality. Cooldown, execution restriction are quite long. Since cooldown is reduced by 1 second for every 8 legendary cards owned across 11 factions, this is your primary long-term progression goal, it says. 8 legendary cards owned across 11 factions. So, you know what you need to do? Some people said in the forum even today that legendary cards are garbage. This is not true anymore. Because from now on, what am I doing here with this? You see? Why do I have a non-legendary card? Aren't I better off just changing it even if it's a Conflux one? I don't know. Most likely, yes. Isn't this better to just change it straight away? And then you increase the legendary cards for all factions. Why are there 11 factions? There are 10 factions in total for these unions, and there is neutral. And just make sure they are legendary. That's what it says. Even the faction cards matter, so I thought they would not just invalidate everything. So that's the quantity of legendary cards. And even the faction cards count. Execution threshold. Moving the bar from 10% to 20% is important. Comprehension, so that's something we know. Comprehension and comprehension resistance. While these look like minor secondary stats, they are often the check stats in tarot systems that determine if your status effect, like 50% parry chance on execution chance, actually land or get resisted by higher level opponents. So this is very much like an accuracy or a resistance stat. Rather accuracy in this case for you, because accuracy means that you have a debuff and it lands on the opponent in turn-based games. And here it's called comprehension. I don't know if this is true. I can only speculate. I cannot see the algorithm. Focus on hitting star level 12, unlock base execute, and so on. And in the video where I assemble these things, I always looked for comprehension and comprehension resistance. So this is accuracy and this is resistance basically in other games. For these effects specifically. So it's not general accuracy, but accuracy on these specific skills. And I don't want to dive deeper. Here it says star level, balance, legendary quality, final HP amplification, and so on. Okay, fine. Now, what I want to do to understand this a bit more deeply is there is this thing called Theme Battle Scar. So there is, so you can understand, I think, Emperor just like Empress. The resonance is the same, and the top, so the first page out of 5 is gonna be different, just the first page. You can interpret it yourself, I guess it's straightforward. And it's not that meaningful unless you're in early game. Now the Theme Battle Scar. There is a Theme Battle Scar mechanic that also has resonance. How does this fare with the new Tarot update? Are there connections? And then I will have to start going in and uploading the effect preview. This long ass text, this thing. I don't think it's gonna be 5 pages, well, it may be 5 pages. So Dragon Slayer theme effect. So this is page 1, this is page 2. Then comes the 3rd page and the 4th page. Here. and after the end we have just the final part, this thing. So this is the effect, and we'll need to understand what this means exactly. And then we have some skills here. And then we have the full star thing. For both, basically. Full star attribute preview and so on. We have this one too. Because there must be some connection. Because the second one hits the first one. Also define fatal damage reduction, deadly resistance, critical strike, and final HP amplification. Am I seeing correctly that Tarot is there to influence and potentially counter this battle scar mechanic? That's my question, and we will see what it says. It will take a while, because I'm assuming it's quite hard to read this, so usually when it's so bad, just feed it to AI. Character recognition is super easy, and it can also go to the web and understand what is going on, but it can also hallucinate, so always take all these answers with a grain of salt. I will show you how I basically counter these types of ideas. But for that I would need to also feed the images and everything else. So there is a clarification, it is still working, and then we will see what it does eventually. And in the meantime I'll go to my ChatGPT Pro, and I'm saying there is a Gemini interaction with Hero of Chaos Tarot 3.0 as well as battle scar, themed battle scar mechanics. Research what you know about them. So first of all, before researching what you know about them, read the Gemini transcript and determine if Gemini was mostly correct or hallucinated gameplay mechanics. And here Gemini, we will see what it says for this. Here are the definitions of the stats and so on, followed by an analysis of mechanics and so on. So fatal damage and fatal damage reduction, the two are connected in some way. These are opposing flat value combat ratings. Fatal damage increases the effectiveness, penetration, or base damage of attacks that trigger a lethal execute threshold. There you go, lethal execute threshold. Fatal damage reduction acts as the defensive counterpart, mitigating the damage taken from these execute style mechanics or raising the threshold required for them to succeed. You see these fatal damage things that they are somehow connected. Deadly resistance, a defensive rating that lowers the opponent's probability of landing deadly strikes. So resistance is always the counterpart to accuracy in most turn-based games, here as well. Imagine Hero of Chaos like a turn-based game that is continuous and auto. And people attack simultaneously, but with a rotating wheel of when their turn is there. Which generally function as a higher, more lethal tier of critical hit, or resisting specific instant kill debuffs. Critical strike, the offensive rating that determines the probability of an attack landing as a critical hit, yielding multiple damage. Final HP amplification, definitive overarching multiplier applied to a unit's total health points. Total health points. That's why it amplifies HP. Maybe this is hallucinated. Final, it applies after all base stats, flat gear stats, and standard percentage buffs that have been calculated. So this means that when you see final in the text, not just here but elsewhere as well, you can be rest assured that it is not an additive percentage but a multiplicative percentage. What do I mean by additive versus multiplicative? You read final and you understand that, let's say, if your base stat was 100 and you got extra gear stats, for example, from your weapon, everything else, you see one of the 4 weapons is always attack, by the way. And you get, let's say, 50 on top of the 100. Okay? So the new stat is gonna be 150. When you have a final HP amplification of 100%, in that case, you multiply 150 by 2 to get the end result, so you get 300. So the 100% is increment on the base of 150, not on the base of 100. So this is why 100% of 150 is taken, which means that you get a 50% increment and you get a 100% increment. You don't add them, but multiply them. I'll show you the calculation. So let's say that you have 100, that's the base, and the 50% increment is a 1.5. It's 150, and the 100% increment is, well, it's 1 plus 1, which is 2. And you get the end result of a 300. If the percentages were additive but not multiplicative, in that case you got a base stat of 100. And here we have a 1 plus, you have a 50%, and you have the 100%. And then you would only get 250. The problem with multiplicative stats is that they don't scale and they take a tax on future units, future mechanics, and they just outweigh all past mechanics. That's why these new stats are that important. So that's what final means. Connection Tarot versus Dragonslayer Battlescar. The Dragonslayer mechanic is built around establishing an extreme defensive wall at low health, while the Tarot 3.0 update introduces offensive utilities designed to dismantle it. You see that there is a connection. Did you think about this? So the mechanic is that you have the Battlescar system. It costs like 300,000-400,000 diamonds to get all the Chasm cores and all this other whatever, so hundreds of dollars, right? This is what I said back in January, by the way. And you get this defensive wall near the low health bars. But the Tarot just quick executes your team, so you never reach that low health bar where these effects, this low HP threshold clash is gonna take precedence. So this means that if you overall skip the Battlescar, this extra Doomsday Battlescars, which I don't recommend, by the way, but you still skipped it, and you overinvest in Tarot now, you might have had a very bad half year between like January and now beginning of June. Yes, but now you can negate all the Battlescar effects with the Tarot effects, and you're not missing anything anymore. That's what I predicted back in January, and this is exactly what happened in the mechanic. Even according to, we'll see if there was an overreach. So Slayer's core survivability activates when a unit falls below 30. Okay, to reach 30% HP you need a hell lot of stars and a hell lot of amplification and orange cards and whatever. So just start pumping up your orange cards. And then provides 70 to 86% damage reduction, true damage reduction, damage sharing, healing. That's the defense. The offense. The Shatter Star enhancement introduces an execution threshold that scales up to 20% HP, and this effectively narrows the Battlescar's defensive utility, which takes from 30% window, it just takes a 10% window. before the unit is instantly killed, bypassing the mitigation entirely. So you kill the unit before it can defend itself with the new battle scar. So was it worth collecting all the Chasm cores? Maybe for those half a year to keep status, absolutely. That's why they were basically created in this order. Death avoidance versus execution. The battle scar grants up to 60 stacks of dodge of death, which specifically provide immunity to fatal damage. The tarot execution effect forces these stacks to be consumed. While an execution may not bypass the dodge of death stack completely, the presence of an execution mechanic acts as a rapid stack stripper to burn through the fatal damage immunities. So it's basically, you get this new system and it's basically trolling the old system. It's built exactly around the old systems to negate the old system's strengths. HP inflation symmetry. Both mechanics rely heavily on flooding the field with final HP amplification. This grants 100% per set tier. Dragon Slayer team items provide a massive individual boost up to 216%. This mutual HP inflation is what makes the tarot's percentage-based execution mechanically necessary. So this means that you amplify the HP up to a huge point, like that other mechanics are gonna be less important because people will have so much HP. I mean, you can check it out even today. So you go to a random team. So for Guard Dragon is kind of an old one. It's an attacker one. It's not gonna be the big HP unit. But let's see, relevance. Not sure if you knew it, but you have all these percentages and all the synergies. So you have all these and roster and everything else. But there is somewhere, I completely forgot. Here it is, the level up. You see HP. There is no like triple, so 1000 separators here, but this is 1000, 100,000, 472 million HP at the moment. With an attack, which is like, how much is it? 30 million. So 472 versus 30 million. Okay. And you have all these other things, by the way, with million other stats. Here you see my stats. Good luck. There is a defensive unit that has lower attack in theory, but larger HP. By the way, this attack, defense, charger, whatever, they start breaking down in like Divine Heralds, because you're seeing that it has higher HP, but not that much higher. So 550 versus 472. You see, attack 306, but this one has an attack of 218. Let's see. No, actually, the attack of this is only 21 million. 21,820, and the attack of this is 30 million. Okay, it's almost the same. Magnitude wise, it's quite similar. So you see the attacks, you see the HPs. This one has a lower attack, relatively high HP, but doesn't have a weapon. So it's, and you see this unit, for example, an attacker, and it has a lower attack. Okay, well, not exactly lower attack, but quite low attack. Okay, and you see that this is how it scales. So for example, this new Lich Hunter basically has lower HP than the others, although she has new skills, new mechanics, new everything. So that's when I'm talking about new items. And counterplay dynamics are designed this way. Bypassing the mitigation phase, mitigating the retaliation, and cooldown attrition. You can read it here, I won't read it myself. Please add the transcript from the images of the battle scar below, or not the type. I need the transcript. It's, by the way, it's not necessarily a pro thing. So the text is reviewing the images. Hopefully it can answer quickly, because character recognition is a very simple AI thing. And I will start copy pasting. So without the extra question, wait, let's see. This was the first one. That's the first prompt. Come on. So this is the first prompt. Something is wrong with my mouse, by the way. I need to replace the mouse. Actually, new mouse is already here, it's just I haven't opened it. Anyway, so this is the first one. Then so let's see, Gemini discussion, so that it understands what the whole discussion was. Then after the first discussion, I'll paste the third discussion, the theme effect. It did its job, I won't even have to basically revise it. So then comes the third one. And then comes the second one, the analysis, because that's the proper order. And then answer in English, just in case it used another language. It has happened to me before. And well, it won't really find YouTube and some other places, and it doesn't exist yet, so it won't find things. I could have basically added this, but it's in the Chinese game mainly. It won't find Facebook. It won't find it in the wiki either. I know it already, but it's yeah, the public information is limited. Gemini was partly correct on the broad direction, but it overstated the certainty and hallucinated several gameplay interpretation. Safest judgment, the image transcription may be mostly plausible, but Gemini's analysis was too confident. Its tarot is a direct counter to Dragon Slayer Battlescar. Conclusion is an inference, not confirmed mechanics. Some stat definitions were wrong or misleading. Okay. So Tarot and Battlescar are account-wide or formation-wide progression layers. That's fine. That's something we know. Dodge of Death is a real death prevention mechanic. That's fine too. And it was also directionally right that modern Era of Chaos systems stack huge survival layers. That's fine. The hallucination part, that's where you need to take it with a grain of salt. Comprehension determines whether parry or execution lands. Not supported by sources. Okay, this comprehension, it needs to be confirmed, because it's very much like whether it's accuracy, whether it's not accuracy. And this might have been hallucinated by Gemini. Okay, it still doesn't change my reward function that I'm gonna go for comprehension, because whenever there is a new stat, most of the time it means something, until we figure out that the developers just are misleading us with some nonsense stat that they didn't even define. But we're not going there, so it hasn't happened yet in this magnitude. Execution strips Dodge of Death stacks. Plausible but not proven. Okay. Tarot is designed as a direct counter to Dragon Slayer Battlescar. Okay. Activates below 30% and it's 20%, but both of them are missing the fact. So both Gemini and you miss the fact in 3 that this 20% threshold may be influenced by other factors, like collecting orange faction tarot cards, if I remember correctly. I don't know if most likely I remember correctly, but it may double check this, because it may work on other stats only. So this is one thing. And furthermore, research these mechanics and the Chinese version of Era of Chaos. And the global version, Tarot 3.0 information is non-existent, because it got released this week. Okay, so just do this. Low percentage, final HP attack bonuses dwarf card stats, Probably true in practice, but Gemini I spoke to. Yeah, it's overconfident and it sometimes hallucinates. Legendary cards across all factions reduce cooldowns. Maybe exactly in the transcript, but could not verify it from public sources. Yeah, ChatGPT is usually like an HR department, okay? And basically I configured it to not do psychophancy. So it's trying to be objective, factual and objective. Fatal damage, damage that would kill the unit. Dodge of death prevents instant fatal damage. Okay. And you have reduction. And you have deadly resistance. Only applying to true damage. And critical strike. True damage critical mechanic. It's like critical damage but on the true damage. And final HP amplification is a multiplicative HP. And then partially a counter, partially we don't know. Okay. You read the rest of the parts. I won't add much. Now, check out Chinese sources, but still answer in English. Chinese terms are fine. So it's in the Chinese version of the game, so why would you expect? And good catch. I'll treat the 20% threshold as a potentially scalable value rather than a fixed endpoint. You see both Gemini and ChatGPT screwed up in here. That's why you cannot just use AI and just accept whatever it says, but you need to do apply critical thinking. So it's super important, and now it's going to some random places, and I'll also do this research mechanics in the Chinese version of Era of Chaos. Okay, so just do this. No, you are right. I should not have treated the 20% as the final ceiling. After checking again, the corrected position is execution threshold becomes 20% is probably incomplete. It's like it likely only rank 3 or resonance 3 upgrade value, whatever. What I could verify. Global Tarot documentation confirms the core structure, cards, Stones of Fate, but we know that already. It's level 1, level 2, we are doing level 3. Chinese event sources also confirm that the Chinese version has long had this thing. I don't know what this thing is. Come on. And then Chinese simplified. Random faction orange tarot card. Okay.
随机阵营橙色塔罗牌
Amazing. Random faction orange tarot card. Meaning, yeah, this. And random shiny cards. These appear in events where player collect this to exchange. Okay, this is not much. We know this already. So your suspicion is structurally plausible. Orange faction cards, fine. Correction to the threshold. Stars, ranks, and the quantity of cards. Cannot confirm, okay. 20% is not necessarily final, fine. Chinese source situation. Older event notices. And let's see the Tarot 3.0, this is what we want. Tarot counters Dragon Slayer Battles card statement should be softened and refined. The interaction is probably not as simple as fixed 30% versus 20% window, it's more like an arms race. So Dragon Slayer Team Battles card creates survival through low HP, trigger, contract of protection, dodge of death, protection efficiency, true damage reduction, not true damage reduction, damage sharing, healing, and counter strike. Tarot 3.0 appears to answer this with execution, resurrection, final HP amplification, final attack amplification, parry, and cooldown scaling. Okay, so it's an arms race, like you defend with one and you attack with the other. But you also have some HP amplification and some other things and cooldown scaling. But if the execution threshold can scale above 20% through orange faction cards or similar progression, then Tarot is much harder to counter than Gemini described. the battle scar's 30% protection window could shrink from even less. Or to even less. And that's something we understand. It's some kind of an arms race. That's what I was thinking about. That if you have battle scar and the opponent has tarot, and whichever is higher is gonna add some extra boost to that player, either by being able to survive or by being able to just execute. But not at the beginning survive, but near the very low HP version. That's why you see that initially it doesn't matter how the HPs are, but once you reach like 30%, 20%, 10%, it drastically changes the mechanic. And you know why this is good? Most of the people will never understand this. Most of the people are already doing something else. They are not even watching this video anymore. And what most people do is they see the health bars and they try to make a sense of it. Okay, that's that wrong. That's that problematic, because what they see is that, okay, we didn't have this battle scar and tarot, now we have it, and in the past it was like 70%, 80% health bar, but now I cannot get rid of this remaining 10%, 20% health bar, but I don't notice it. All I notice is that right now it's so much easier to eliminate 60, 70, 80% of the health bar of the opponent than before. So I must have become better myself. The battles look a lot more even. So it's like a conspiracy theory. With tarot and battle scar, I say BS, but it means something else. Not scare scar. Battles tend to finish with the health bar of health bar staying in the bottom 30% more frequently. So the majority of players who have no idea what the hell is going on will just conclude that they have improved as the battles feel more close than before. Can this be true based on the mechanics described? More close battles, which are near misses, incentivize player engagement. Because then I would understand why all these mechanics are there. Let's go back to this Gemini topic, because a Chinese situation, whatever, got wrong. Practical conclusion. Find out whether orange faction terror cards affect execution threshold, hope so. Check whether legendary card inlaid means all cards. Threshold cooldown, and fix that 20% Gemini's counter theory, and if it can scale the counter relationship, you can understand it. So it's a mechanical possibility, so the theory is plausible, which means that it's not it doesn't mean that it was designed because of this, okay? I'm just saying that I understand. Tarot plus battle scar can plausibly create more battles that visually sit near the bottom of the HP bar, especially below 30%. The actual outcome is increasingly determined by hidden threshold mechanics, death prevention, stacks, cooldowns, protection, execution rolls. What you need to understand is it is very hard to sell a game, and I was badly affected by this about a year ago, 1.5 years ago. Where what I saw is that, and I'm seeing this to this day, by the way, I just got used to it, especially if you play against Order. What you see is that, okay, they quickly lose almost all their health, and they go back and they lose all back, and the health bar just goes back and forth every second as if it was some sort of a stroboscope. It's very hard to sell a game like this where it's all the way, it resonates and then one player dies. Just imagine, it just doesn't make sense. It's not a real battle. when both parties like go down slowly but surely, and it stops at 30%, and one of them goes closer to the zero than the other one, and then you just create more action, you create more anticipation and near misses lead to spending and engagement. Strong and reasonable hypothesis. Why the mechanics support this? Here you can understand this. Damage reduction, sharing, whatever, healing. Damage sharing, you know, it's harder to kill the players if they share the damage. It's in many different games. That alone can create more fights where players see units hovering at low HP and think, I almost killed it. My team is getting closer. One more upgrade and I win. This was a near miss. That's the genius behind this mechanic. I don't know who created this battle system, but I have a huge respect for the intellectual mental capacity of figuring this out, even if the objective is debatable. Under the hood, the opponent may still have these like 60 layers of death prevention. Just imagine. You're near the near miss, like just 30% of health, but you have the 60 layers of death prevention, which will last for many, many seconds. And then it just stays and stays and stays, and the other dies. The public battle scar text supports that the battle scars are a power system similar to artifacts. And then Tarot makes it even more plausible. Execution below 10%, possibly 20% higher with upgrade, resurrection, parry, and so on, these things. Fights may increasingly look close, because the visible HP bar approaches the danger zone more often. But the real question is no longer who has more damage or sustain, it becomes who has the right threshold layer, whose cooldown is ready, how many dodge or death stacks remain, does execution bypass or consume those stacks, does resurrection still have a trigger available, or does the battle end before or after the hidden protection loop expires. And this is when you can take a player with like 10 million combat power and another player with 70 million combat power, it's like 7 times more experienced in collecting random stuff. But one has this mechanic, the other one doesn't. And then you just don't understand what hit you with the 70 million. Because the one with the 10 million has these 60 stacks, has all these other things. If I had 2 test server accounts, I would love to check this out and test it to the death. This is exactly the kind of system where most players cannot parse why they won or lost. You won't see it from the combat screen or anywhere else. Near miss engagement angle is credible. No near miss effect in gambling psychology, that's something we know, let's not get into it. And farm behind them clues, and this is super important. And these mechanics can create more apparent close battles because low HP no longer means near death. Low HP only means that you trigger an avalanche of different effects where you have either the 60 stacks getting consumed or some other things, or you have the execution trigger but the opponent is not yet there, but once they reach it they get executed. It's difficult. This intentional design, let's not get there. I didn't say it's intentionally designed to screw players over. It's not. This video is not about that. It's just naturally it's player interest and operator interest as well that the health bar doesn't like oscillate back and forth like this. So you see all these things. It's possible, these close battles. All right. Then one thing, Gemini is better at one. Here is the text, kind of a long text. I will parse it, but before that, let's see. Chinese Dragon Slayer Tarot. Arcana scaling provides set bonuses. Unavoidable status effects. True damage focus. We don't know because there are some other cards too. High burst environment. Dragon Slayer. Hit count immortal with this 60 stacks of fatal damage. Extreme damage mitigation. And retaliation and healing. And then with tier 12 the mind lock debuff. So Tarot relies heavily on inflating units protection efficiency and true damage increase to guaranteed kills through standard mitigations. Tier 12 Dragon Slayer reduces the cooldown of the counter strike to 1 second. Applies Mind Lock in an AoE splash. All opponents. Each stack of Mind Lock explicitly decreases the target's protection efficiency by 10%. True damage increases, stacking up to 10 times. A fully stacked Mind Lock completely nullifies the primary offensive stats of Tarot 3.0, fine. Chinese meta shifted towards Dragon Slayer specifically to stall and neutralize Tarot. So it seems like it's the opposite end. So it's not Tarot counters Battle's card, but Battle's counters Tarot on level 12. We need to confirm that. Or it's an arms race and either can counter the other. And this is the idea. Okay, then search for feedback based on to confirm or deny the following ChatGPT discussion. Your search should be on the Chinese version of the game, but your answer should be in English. Just in case, because it has happened before the Gemini also started like Chinese stuff. Let's see. And then that's the final thing, unless I discover something new. I'm using this as a search engine at the moment. Chinese player sentiment. It's sometimes exaggerating, so once again take it with a grain of salt. Okay. Largely confirms the mechanical reality of this theory, because I noticed the same thing. It's not like I asked because of what I read, but I asked that there is basically a higher spender player on the server where the other account that I demoed was, and I know that he is supposed to be a lot stronger, and I almost beat him. Almost, but not quite. Everything got closer. And I was like, listen, I don't deserve this near miss based on my preparation and my opponent's preparation, because he had better everything, basically, so much better. And this near miss theory started emerging in my end, that something new is happening in here. So let's see. Fake health bar phenomenon. The Chinese community, I'm not sure if this is true or this is hallucinated. So explicitly check out if you hallucinated anything and name the points if you did. I need accurate feedback, not hallucination. So it's, before continuing, it's important to note this. Anyway, fake health bar. 30% illusion. Players widely acknowledge that the first 70% of the unit's health bar is entirely cosmetic in the large game meta. Once a unit reaches 30% threshold and triggers Dragon Slayer's defensive suits, these things, remaining 30% has exponentially more effective HP than a fresh unit. Visual deception. UI doesn't adequately display the remaining layers of dodge of death or anything else. You know, that's why TAS kept on asking for a battle log or combat log, even if it didn't exist before. An enemy is visually sitting at a silver of health. So let's see. I did not execute a live internet search, Baidu, Tiaba, and so on. Analysis provided with these things. Authentic Chinese communities describe these exact types of mechanics in general. Stat deflation. These definitions were hallucinated from generic RPG and specific Era of Chaos historical mechanics. Thanks, no. Holy Trinity terminology. Okay, Tarot 3.0, Chinese update. these things. Could not verify Chinese state of tarot 0.0. Yeah, you see. So it makes some sense, but I would take it with a grain of salt, okay? Anyway, now we see this new mechanic. Now we understand that the two go hand in hand, and it's some sort of an arms race. Now we understand that tarot is doing some execution, and the other one is doing some sort of a sustain mechanic, so the battle scar. You can read it, check it out, interpret it, and then you will understand more or less on how to think about these. I would say you would need both as high as possible, but if you just concentrate on one of the two, maybe you'll be able to negate the other one, but you won't be able to use the one that you don't have. That's the issue. Eventually you will need both, most likely. That's my analysis at the moment. Let me know in the comments if you have any concrete information, or if I said something really wrong, or if I read something really wrong that was actually hallucination. It can happen.